Hi, this is Chimes Media and I'm James Williams. Well, there's so much things going on in Britain and Europe and elsewhere that it's hard to keep up with events, and they're changing by the moment. Britain is consumed with Brexit and the debates going on in the UK Parliament. The UK government has been held in contempt of Parliament. There's all kinds of things. They've lost votes, trying to get the Theresa May approval through, and it doesn't look like it's going to survive a parliamentary vote, which I think is aimed for the 11th of December as well. So lots of turmoil. But one thing I have noticed about the BBC in particular is how they are constantly, relentlessly anti-Brexit, and the media they are divided to some extent. By and large, there's the elitism, the elite of the media, the elite of the politicians. Generally speaking, the wealthy ones seem to be wanting to kill off Brexit by any means they can, and they've been constantly presenting a negative case for Brexit all the time. I heard even Nigel Lawson, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's an adamant Brexiteer. The other day they attacked him when he came on the radio. I don't mean physically attacked him, but attacked him because he has a house in France, and they're trying to say, "Oh, you're moving to France. It shows you don't have confidence in Brexit." Well, actually, in fact, he was selling a house in France to move back to Britain. But, that's the sort of things they have, a personalised attack. I heard today as well on Radio 5 about there was a call in, and they dragged out the usual thing. Oh, there's a lot of racism going on, people getting called because they don't look British and that kind of thing. What a total nonsense. I've never seen that in Portsmouth, I can tell you that now. People don't, I have not seen anyone behave that way, so I don't know what they were talking about. But what was interesting was somebody referred to the Irish problem, and the presenter then said, "Well, you don't know what the people are wanting in Ireland, you don't know that." And then at the same time, well, she didn't know either. So how could he was making a comment of personal opinion. So, and I've noticed there's a lot of attacks on people who are pro-Brexit. Anyone listening that's thinking, well, maybe I might phone and put my 2 pence in, will be put off by that. I think the BBC have been utterly disgraceful, as always. I find them very difficult to listen to these days. I'm afraid I perhaps look on the BBC with a bit of a political spectacles on, but I don't see them as very much at all as an impartial organisation. It's time they were made to account. They come out and say, oh, they produce some wonderful programmes at taxpayers' expense. But I'm finding actually an increasing number of people are not paying their TV licence, not because they're going criminal, but because they're just not watching the television. They're finding alternative means to get their news and learn about what's going on in the world. It's not good. The media, it seems to be the whole of the media virtually, with a few exceptions, well, I say the whole of the media, the large proportion of the media are very globalistic. They are not critical of the government in power wherever they are, except unless it's Donald Trump, and then they're quite critical about him. But they seem to be supporting the status quo. They don't be. Now I want to go to France because unless you've lived under a stone for the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been huge fuel protests in France. Now this has been labelled as far right activity, and what a load of nonsense. These people are ordinary people. I saw the same thing, the protests outside Whitehall a few months ago now. The people that turned up were ordinary working class people, middle class people, black people, white people, Asian people, European people, a mixture, but always labelled as far right, far right Nazi type groups. It's nonsense. They don't even give you a definition of what that. The far right aren't the ones who went going to war across Europe. The Nazis, Hitler and all those lot were left wing. You look at their policies, all left wing policies. The Nazis, Hitler were not right wing. And that label has been misused deliberately to misdirect people and to suppress speech and stop people looking at the real culprits, who are the globalists and the communists. Now we've got the UN compact due to be signed sometime in December. We are in December, and this is going to be signed by a number of countries. This is the end of borders. This is the end of borders. It means it gives migrants inalienable rights. They're getting rid of the term illegal immigrant. That's being scrubbed from EU literature. They're called irregular migrants. And there's no such. They're trying to fudge the issue between somebody who's a genuine refugee running from terror and a terrible and risk of being persecuted and killed even. They're fudging the definition between those and economic migrants. You know, people don't know where to go. You cannot trust the media anymore. You can't trust the mainstream media. They lie all the time. You don't know what's truthful. You know, I listen to people, they try to give their best opinion they can, but most people are not informed. It's not their fault they're not informed. They're not informed properly because the media are not doing their job. They are beyond reproach. When Trump calls the media, he's talking about a particular sector of the media. He's not calling all the media. When Trump calls the media the enemy of the people, he is quite right. I'm going back to France now with these demonstrations, protests, the fuel protests. Macron's approval rating has fallen to 23% in a poll conducted about a week or so ago. That's down 6 points on the previous month, and there's no reason why it shouldn't go down even further the way he's playing. You know, these people on the streets, they're yellow vests, these are ordinary motorists, ordinary car owners, which are many. This is the carbon tax they're trying to put in. They're trying to get people away from diesel. The French people were hoodwinked, as we were in Britain, into buying diesel cars because they're better for the environment. And then they changed their tune. So you forked out. It's buying a car for anyone is a big purchase. It's a big purchase for any ordinary person. So you buy these diesel cars and then they start taxing you. Now, people in France is about 4 times the area of Britain. They've got the same sort of population. People in France need their vehicles to get from A to B, to get to their jobs, to go about their business, to deliver their groceries and all sorts of stuff. You start putting up, and then most of them hadn't had a decent pay rise for 10 years. You know, they can't cope with the cost of living that's being foisted upon them by this evil, malevolent carbon tax, and the people putting it on their lower paid people are the top 1%. The Macrons of this world. Emmanuel Macron is a Rothschild banker. I really do question the election that got him in. I think there was some sort of fiddling going on to get him in regardless and not allow Marine Le Pen in. Marine Le Pen is not far right. As I've said before, it's like this Nazi idea about the Nazis being right-wing and we've got to be afraid of them. Yeah, they were on the left. You check the history books, you look at it with an impartial view, and you'll see their policies, I think it's about 25 points, and they're all socialist policies, right? Marine Le Pen is not far right. She's a traditionalist, okay? Macron, he's been arrogant. He called these protesters thugs. You're talking about ordinary people. They've got 80% support from the French people. 80%. You know, politicians give their hind teeth to get 80% support. You know, it'd be overwhelming. And I'll just say they've been called the worst riots in decades. I think probably going back to 1968, probably. And that was the last bad riots. They had the student riots in Paris and all sorts of stuff. These riots, these protests, and they're not. We've seen them in Paris, right? There's been what film footage has been put through. It's in Paris. They've been outside Calais. There's Marseille where the students gathered there and protested as well. So you've got a mixture of groups. There are far left and far right groups involved in this. Of course there are, but most of the people are ordinary people. And they've had enough. They're not protesting just to be malicious. They're protesting for a really good reason. They're getting ripped off, and what's happened is now, they've won because they've backed off. No, they haven't backed off. The French government has not backed off. all they have is delayed it. They are still fully intent on implementing their fuel tax. And this is a big a thing of a very big wedge. And it's going to be really bad. Now, people in Britain doubting Brexit, this is what we've got coming. This is what we're trying to get away with. With Brexit, we're trying to get away from these people in Brussels and elsewhere who are trying to decimate and impoverish and suppress European people. I'm a Brexiteer, but I love my fellow Europeans. I've got no animosity against them. I'm not a xenophobe, and I'm like a lot of other people. I went door to door with a lot of other things during the Brexit campaign. I went to 10,000 houses in Portsmouth alone. 10,000 on my own. I didn't see every single person in their house, but I saw quite a few. They were ordinary people. They did not hate foreigners. They were fed up with being told what to do by this remote autocracy in Brussels, unelected. But this is what the globalists want. This is what the globalists want. Their friends are corporatists who don't give a monkeys about you, me. They come on with this, oh, look at these poor children, these poor babies. They're just trying to get to a better life. They don't give a monkeys. They don't give a monkeys about them. It's money for them. That's all they're interested in. Money and control and power. You know, making this video, it'll probably get me arrested for what's going on in the world, because freedom of speech is important. It's important for us to say what we feel. Political correctness, hate speech, they're coming in. You know, you won't be able to, if this UN compact gets signed, which the UK has not said it won't sign, we're going to end up, we will be afraid, even more afraid to say anything than we are now. It's absolutely outrageous what's going on. The changes are there to strip away any dignity we have as a nation, as a people. Now, I just want to finish on this. The figures, there have been 4 dead in the French protest. 4. 412 arrested. That's the figures I've got. That can change daily and hourly. 130 people injured, including 25 security. 4 people dead, though. And I think one may have been an elderly lady or something like that, you know. But it doesn't matter who it is. It's still bad and it affects people. But what is a little bit comfort is that many of the police changed sides. Many of the police changed sides and supported the protesters. You had paramedics coming out supporting them. Now, Macron, I mean, he's totally... There's this picture of him. He thinks himself to be Jupiter. He's completely arrogant. A Rothschild banker, as I said. He's out of touch. And when you get these huge organisations, these big governmental, these empirical organisations, they get more and more distant from the people. They know less and less about the ordinary people. This thing about fuel taxes, you know, if the French are going to have it, we'll have it in Britain. They'll be imposed elsewhere. So France is at the knife edge of this, and he clearly does not understand or does not care about ordinary French citizens. He doesn't care or understand them because he's not one of them. He doesn't rub shoulders with them. He's a figurehead for the globalists, and he's a puppet to their needs. I've often thought for many years that our prime ministers and presidents and all the rest of it are just that. They're just managers for a bigger power. And it's becoming more and more apparent as days, weeks, months go on and their agenda rolls out. I thank God for the populists, because they're the one stopper. And all this slagging off of Donald Trump, they haven't found a spot on him yet. At least not yet anyway. They'll find something because everyone's done something wrong somewhere. But you notice that they were terrified of him coming into power when he did. Why? Because he is one person, one leader who potentially could make the difference. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching.
Sorry, I'm holding you for the cutscene.
We gotta get away.
I don't know where we'll meant to go.
Oh wait, with the police. Just let's get beyond the barriers. Tell them because they're gonna hit us. We gotta just tell them we're pressed. We can't do. I can't deal with the smoke anymore. Just excuse me. We're with the press.
We get out.
I can't handle the smoke anymore. This way.
Là, on peut pas, il y a pas de